Once upon a time there was an expansive lawn that was of the lushest shade of green you can possibly imagine. It was so because it was tended by gardeners who took pride in the health and appearance of the lawn. They did so because they loved their work and got immense satisfaction from seeing the beautiful results. So spectacular was the lawn that people would come from far and wide to admire the green expanse. Children would frolic on it while their parents watched indulgently as they munched their way through the huge hampers they had brought to picnic on. The children would tire themselves out playing while their elders did the same eating. They would all then lay themselves out on the velvety verdantness and drift away into dreamland, aided by the perfect afternoon sunshine. As they drifted away into sweet slumber, many of them would think, if there is a paradise, this must be pretty damn close to it. One day, the owners of the lawn, the folks who paid the gardeners a not insubstantial sum per month, were looking at their monthly accounts. They realized that their financial standing was not as good as it should be. To fix this, their financial advisors suggested that they outsource the tending of their lawn to professionals. "Don't worry about a thing," said the advisor in chief. "We know some consultants who are experts at this sort of thing." The advisor in chief was as good as his word. The next day, the owners got a visit from a guy in a suit who, for reasons of privacy, we should call the consultant. The consultant told the owners not to worry. He had just the solution to their problem. "Forget these expensive and slow gardeners," he said. "What you need is the cloud." Now anyone at all has heard of the cloud, and so had the owners. "The cloud!" they exclaimed. "Yes, we have heard of the cloud. But pray tell us, how will it solve our problem?" "It's simple," said the consultant. "The cloud will water the lawn and thus tend to its well-being. You don't need gardeners. The cloud will look after your investment. But what's really interesting for you is that the cloud will cost you a fraction of what the gardeners cost." Then, pulling out a slickly produced dossier, he continued, "Here's an analysis done by an independent consultant." The owners read the analysis and were duly impressed. They decided that this cloud business was a great idea. It would help them cut costs and maintain, even improve the quality of their lawn. It sounded like a winning proposition. There was a downside, though. The owners soon realized they would have to let the gardeners go. This would not be easy, as the gardeners had been in their employ for many years. However, the owners prided themselves on being pragmatists. They had, after all, overseen a successful venture for many years. Now, to maintain it, they would have to change with the times. This, after all, was the age of the cloud. Many difficult conversations ensued, and eventually the gardeners were shown the gate. Paradise has no doors, I'm told, but it does have a gate of a somewhat pearly appearance. The cloud then took over the tending of the lawn, and as they say, all was well in paradise. The lawns were regularly watered, and the grass grew. And it grew, and it grew. It grew to such an extent that the visitors no longer found its lush greenness as welcoming and inviting. From the kids' perspective, it's hard to frolic in grass that's too tall, and from a grown-up's view, it's simply impossible to picnic in. The owners complained to the consultants as they saw this. The consultant brought a legal expert who knew all about the services that the owners had bought, and more importantly, those that they had not. The expert affirmed that the package the owners had purchased did not include any mowing services. Only watering was included. The owners evidently had not read the fine print. Understandably, many acrimonious arguments ensued. Words were said that shouldn't have been said. Things were thrown that shouldn't have been thrown, although at people who ought to have a few things thrown at them. The owners thought about the good old days when the lawn was being looked after by people who had a stake in it and who cared about it. The cloud was an entity that was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Why would it care for a piddly patch of green? The owners realized that the survival of the lawn was at stake. If they wanted the lawn to return to its original state of perfection, they would have to swallow their pride and admit they had made a mistake. The question was, would they? And there I have to leave the story, because I know not what they did. There is a moral to this tale, however, and it is that clouds don't give a damn about grass.